And welcome back, everyone, to One on One with Nate and Aziz, hashtag Triple O Show. Nate, man, season's 2 days away. Can you believe
right
it?
Right around the corner, man.
I am super excited.
I feel like in the last show we were talking about, we felt like it was right around the corner, so
And it's
reality is hitting.
finally here. How have you been doing, though, man?
I've been good. I've been, I have a tendency throughout off season to really just focus on myself and my personal growth. You know what I'm saying? So,
Hear you.
past few weeks has been all about hitting the gym, man. How about you?
I've been good, man. As you know, in our gym group chat, I've been sampling phrases from our, fellas at the gyms and making
Yes.
instrumentals. So,
Oh man, we gotta get the Christmas album.
right. I may throw a couple of those links on this video, but I've just been having a good time, so
Good to hear.
it's good. So NBA season is upon us, and one of the things, the NBA is a business, but what's also been taking off lately is betting, and what comes with betting. Fantasy basketball. So today we're gonna go through pretty much our top 10 players of who we think are gonna be breakout fantasy stars that you all should be on the lookout for this year.
Yep. Yeah, y'all get your tickets to Vegas ready because we're gonna give you some high stakes folks
Right.
here.
So we're just gonna do kind of like a round robin team. So I'll just graciously give Nate the first pick. I'll take the second pick, and then we'll just alternate from there and there. So, and our first annual Triple O Show draft, fantasy draft, who are you taking?
Well, hey, man, I think we realize, and y'all will hear this in just a moment, how much more in line we are than we probably expected to be.
Very true.
But hey, I will definitely open it up for us with my guy who I'm going with as the quintessential player for 2018-2019, which is Anthony Davis.
The brow.
The wonder brow, yes. As we can expect, the guy has just been a productive machine for the past several seasons. Averaging close to 30 points, over 10 rebounds a game, and just fills the rest of the stat sheet throughout most of the season. Really, why I'm looking at him for my number one fantasy player is because of the circumstance. He's going to be playing into a contract for these upcoming seasons. So I think he's really going to be establishing himself as obviously a overtly max contract player. So I expect him to put up some numbers that are pretty similar to last year. And again, we talked about this a little bit. The guy is really adding to his repertoire every year. We saw his percentage go up in threes over the past couple seasons. So again, I expect him to be taking a lot more of those shots.
Definitely. Yeah, the pace of play this year, I think offense is going to be up. I mean, it seems like every year offensive stats are up. So I completely agree. And, I think Anthony Davis is a wonderful, great number one pick, especially coupled with him saying he's the best player in the NBA right now. He's definitely going to have that.
Gotta have the confidence.
That motivation coming behind him. And DeMarcus Cousins leaving, I think, just opens up more stats for him. One of the things I saw in our stats were, last year when DeMarcus Cousins got hurt, for the month of February, he averaged 35 points, 13 rebounds, 2.6 blocks, and 2.5 steals. And that was once DeMarcus went out. So he kind of flipped that switch and was like, this is what the team needs from me, and this is what I can do. So I feel like you said, this is just going to be a breakout year for him. He's just going, balls to the wall. And
yeah. And again, I think to that point, I mean, the guy needs some room to operate. They experimented a little bit with the Twin Towers in New Orleans. But I think a guy like Julius Randle, who's coming along, could be much more complimentary. He'll kind of, allow for more space inside that in and out game. And again, I anticipate Anthony Davis is going to be pretty comfortable with the 3-point line by playoff time.
Yeah, I agree. And also that February stat in 3 wins. Mind you, it was a very small sample size, but he shot 63% from the 3-point line. So,
Yeah. Hey, look, man, Clay, watch your back, bro. That brow is menacing, man.
Right. So
we got a number 2 here.
There's a lot of great players out there on the board, but I'm gonna be biased and take my guy Russell Westbrook because Triple doubles, you
Yeah.
know, it's all about the numbers.
Numbers don't lie.
The numbers do not lie. And Westbrook, you know, last year, 25 points, 10.3 assists, 10.1 rebounds, 1.5 steals. We're not going to talk about turnovers. But
Talk about that winning percentage, too.
the guy's just a triple double machine. And, you know, he averaged 25 points last year. The year before that, he averaged 31. So I feel like with Carmelo Anthony leaving, you know, we can probably get those 6 points back. I feel like him and Paul George having a year under their belt will, you know, just even have better symmetry. So, you know, you might get another assist or two defensively. With Roberson being out, you know, that's probably going to put a little more onus on Westbrook, you know, guarding those perimeter players. So, you know, the steals, the blocks, and all that.
Yeah, and I haven't looked at his the injury chart recently. When is Roberson expected to come back?
I think they said there was a setback in the recovery, so it might be another 2 months.
Wow,
in that area. So
yeah, he certainly takes some defensive pressure off of the rest of the team and rebounds too. So I still see Russell having to cover all of that.
And I don't believe they signed back Corey Brewer, so that, you know, shooting guard spot is kind of, unless I don't think they're going to start out the year playing Schroeder and Westbrook, although we're not even sure when Westbrook's coming back. But, you know, you still want to take him if you got him available in the draft. But say when he does come back, and I don't believe Roberson will be back by then, you've got options at that 2 guard like Alex Abrinas and Terrence Ferguson and even maybe Hamidou Diallo, which all that says is you're going to have more
get
offense.
some play, yeah.
Right. So
there's gonna be a lot of guys. I think, you know, it's interesting, and we won't go too far here, but I'm wondering if Russell Westbrook is also going to be, you know, over the next couple seasons, maybe reevaluating his game. Perhaps adding more of a focus on something that will lead to more W's. Because you're absolutely right, man. I mean, it's funny to look back on the season last year with the players they had and still see him putting up a triple-double. Just because you would think all those guys need a bit more burn. But he can just produce so much without a winning output.
Yeah.
And to me, that could, you know, over time as a player, he'll have to understand that.
Definitely.
But hey, man, if he can go for average a third triple-double, like, I'm gonna have to just slap Anthony Davis upside that head, like, man.
You never know. I mean, the last 3 years, 175 double-doubles, 85 triple-doubles.
That's
so
insane. Yeah.
I can't go. I will gladly take Russell Westbrook as my first pick. So.
Yeah, man. Russell's on the list, of course, because he's a productive beast. But same goes for our guy James Harden, reigning MVP. With the addition of Carmelo Anthony, again, creates a different dynamic to the offense. We always talk about, or at least I always talk about assists with James Harden. People only associate that guy as a offensive dynamo or a defensive liability. Exactly. But I mean, he is always in the top 10 in steals per season, assists, average 8.8 assists last year, 30 points, rebounds, and steals are still impressive in my mind in the top 10. The guy is gonna, again, I think, perform to MVP level, and to MVP standards. But with the addition of a guy like Melo, we may see a couple point drops, but I could potentially see that 8.8 assists be in the double digits by the end of the season.
Definitely.
What are you thinking?
I think as well, the pace of play, like I said, this year, I think is just going to be up overall across the league. And Houston, D'Antoni, like that's like a blessing.
They walk down the street hand in hand.
Right. Yeah. That's you know, music to his ears there. And even with Carmelo, I think from what we've seen in the preseason, you know, he's gonna adapt to that system, and so you're not gonna really see ISO Melo if he's on the floor with Harden. And so, like you said, I believe those assists, Carmelo, you know, catching, shooting. Maybe we finally get Olympic Melo. I doubt it.
Well, this will be the third. If I'm not mistaken, this will be the third time Melo has been paired with D'Antoni, right? So New York was Phil.
No, he had D'Antoni in New York.
and Team USA, and then coming back to Houston. Yeah, I mean, I think him and Harden are much more similar than a lot of people would think. They just like the free flow element of the game, and like you said, with a focus on offense, that'll open back up that window and that mentality. I think Oklahoma City, Melo was still expected to do too much, man. And at this stage in his career, he's not willing to be that kind of guy. So I'm hoping it's a good pairing.
It seems like this is the year that Melo needs to figure out what kind of player you're going to be going forward. And playing with a guy like Harden and Chris Paul, I think it's one of those situations like if you can't get right with them, you're not getting right with anybody. And
you
so
should be enabled to have success either way.
Seeing how easy the game is probably going to be with Harden, putting up the numbers that he's capable of putting up, I think he gets on track. But like we said, ultimately that should end up in being more assists, maybe a point or two less for Harden, but he scores the ball. That's what he does.
He scores, and honestly, dude, I mean, we saw this in the playoffs last year against Golden State. Look, I think Houston is actually severely underrated on defense. They have pretty well executed team defense in the flow, and Capella himself is a beast in my opinion. So they can again hide some of those flaws with a guy like Melo, and that should make them feel pretty comfortable.
Definitely.
So speaking of more of a guy that does it all, as opposed to just an offensive player, is I'm slotting in Giannis at number 3. Were we ready to?
I was gonna say, it was my pick, but obviously, I was gonna pick Giannis. So, thank you for
See, me and Z are basically one person. Right? We just think for each other.
So we're co-captaining each other's teams in this competition.
Okay, so I opened the door.
Yeah, you opened the door, but yes, definitely, I'm taking Giannis at number 4. Last year, almost 27 points per game, 10 rebounds, almost 5 assists, a block and a half, and a steal and a half. And I think this year, under Mike Budenholzer, he's a good coach, but I feel like he's never had a player of this caliber. So the things, that he might want to do in the past, he's going to be able to do so much more with a guy like Giannis. It seems like Giannis kind of has that. Well, he was supposed to have it last year when Kobe called him out, but now it seems like he's gonna have that mentality.
He's sharpened, a little bit of an edge. I'm sensing the preseason.
This needs to be my MVP year. I saw him, shooting threes in the preseason, which I'm a little iffy about the form, but everybody's shooting threes this year, so why not? I'm not mad. And he only took 1.9 3-point attempts last year, so I completely expect that to be up. Also, even though it might not be a big deal to them, losing a guy like Jabari Parker, I think that's going to open up the offense for him to take more shots or be more of a playmaker, I should say. Because, a guy like Chris Middleton is more of a catch-and-shoot type of player. Bledsoe is really not a distributor.
Right, yeah.
So...
Yeah. No, I agree. I mean, we've seen some progression, I'd say year in and year out. But really to that effect, it's been the mental and the execution. What can Minnesota do, or excuse me, Minnesota, what can the Bucks do as an organization to take advantage of a player like him? I mean, the guy is only able to do so much, which is everything, but enabling other players works fine for an extended period, but you really need and this is, again, talk more of the playoff talk, but, Milwaukee, if they don't figure out who's going to, say, lead that team in his absence, because they're close to the verge of losing him.
Yes, definitely.
You need to begin to prepare more as a team to be a dynamic offense and defense instead of just focusing on one centerpiece.
Right.
But hey, man, I'm going back to Anthony Davis. Everyone is shooting more threes this year. Everyone's, like you said, is going to be looking to pick up the pace a bit. So I can see his numbers, creeping closer to perhaps 30 points a game.
Definitely. Every year he's been in the league, his scoring average has went up at least 4 points a game. So with him averaging, 26.9, 30 should be, right there on the cusp.
Yeah.
So.
What do you think for him as a player, he could, we outside of his mentality. Do you see any skill gaps with him? Anything that he could add beyond maybe a 3-point shot? I would love to see a bit more of a crafty post game. He has a tendency to, in a lot of ways, he can muscle you to the basket and just use his pure length. But I would love to see some creative
some back
moves.
to the basket moves. I think he has a little bit. And while everyone focuses on the 3-point shot, I don't think it's tailored to just the 3-point shot. With him, I think it's shooting in general because you can tell he's a guy. And I think a lot of guys in the NBA have this problem, like a Rondo, where I don't think they're really as bad of shooters as they think they are. It's more of a confidence thing. So if you have but that also goes along with coaching. You have to have that green light where they're telling you, hey, you're going to miss shots, but we need you to take shots. Yeah. And I did hear a quote where Giannis said, last year they expected me to make plays. This year, I'm going to shoot the ball. So I think he gets that, if you don't shoot the ball, how can you ever improve?
Exactly. Things will stagnate. And to your point, I think you hit the nail on the head. There's a lot of guys that can shoot the ball, man. But they are put in a position where they're told, don't take that shot. Giannis is a guy, he's just taking advantage of what he can right now, which is no one can stop him from inside the 3-point line. But to that effect, why not extend that a little bit? No one can now stop you outside of the 3-point line.
Because teams are going to crowd the paint. I saw that happen at the beginning of the year last year. They played OKC in one of the first couple games, and Oklahoma City just pretty much crowded the paint, and he couldn't get there, but he was so reluctant to shoot that, he was passing the ball off to other teammates. But like we said, a guy like Chris Middleton, Malcolm Brogdon, they're good players, but their one-on-one games aren't quite to that level.
Yeah, we'll see if, Budenholzer, I think, is in for a good challenge. It's nothing better than having a guy like Giannis to start with. So, big hopes for them and big hopes for my boy in Chicago, Jabari. Welcome home, bro.
It's a whole nother story. So who are you taking with your third pick?
So my third pick, so we went Anthony Davis, Harden.
You've got Anthony Davis and Harden. I've got Westbrook and Giannis. Right.
Okay. So beyond that, my next pick would be Jokic.
Ooh.
And that's
a curveball there.
It's pretty high for what we saw last year, which was very promising. I mean, I love this thing. Like seriously, man. Even in preseason, unstoppable, just so effortlessly. But yeah, so just looking at his stats from last year, they're modest. 18.5 points per game, 10.7 rebounds, 6 assists a game.
Right.
For a big man, it's all the intangibles to me that really sets him apart. The footwork, the soft touch, the delicate kind of deliberate. Yeah, exactly. Reminiscent of a more, I'd say, powerful Pau Gasol. Yeah. I just really like to watch him work around the basket. Denver, man, it's hard for me to watch their full game. I like a lot of players on their team. We talked about Jamal Murray. But there's not a ton of cohesion with them. And again, with a guy like Jokic, that's why I see him potentially being very productive for next season. It's because he's just going to be tasked to do a lot for
He's
that
the
team.
Focal point. I think they figured that out at the end of the year. This is where we need to run the offense through because, like you said, you've got shooters like Jamal Murray, Gary Harris. I wouldn't call Will Barton a shooter, but he can make shots.
Sure.
But like you said, they realized, running the offense through Jokic at that high post, he's going to have the advantage to see over the players guarding him. He's got enough of a post game to where he can get to the basket, but also he can make that mid-range jump shot. Yeah. And even some threes because everybody's taking threes.
Everybody's shooting them. But the biggest outcome of that to me is really how much it opens up the passing game. And we see that with, a bunch of bigs these days. Really for that team to take advantage of Jokic, I agree. I think he has to be the number one option. The only reason I'm putting him this high is just from what I've seen at the tail end of last season going into preseason. He's also taking, to me, a much more deliberate attempt at being the, kind of the go-to guy. So hopefully the window opens up for them. I won't be watching a ton of Denver games, but
Just check the box
I will
score
have him
afterward.
on my radar for sure.
Yeah, 38 double-doubles last year, 10 triple-doubles. So, and surprisingly, he attempted 3.7 threes last year. So all those numbers I expect to go up. So
But when you see all these little 6-foot guys running around jacking shots up, man, I want to get some of that too.
But why not me? So Jokic, third pick is a little bit of a risk taker.
I wanted to throw a little bubble in there just because there's a few guys who I would expect coming out of last year actually to be a bit higher. But man, there's something that's circling around my brain that really sees a large shift happening this season in terms of some underrated guys. So definitely. We'll see if he stays that high even in the first few weeks.
Yeah.
But
I can definitely see that though. Like I said, and just keep harping on the pace of play. Denver is always going to be number one in it. So, or one of the top teams as far as the tempo that they play at. So, the faster you play, the more stats. So, I'm not mad at the Jokic at number 5.
I know he's maybe a bit of a sleeper for you, but
it's all good. Well, while you're taking sleepers and risk takers, I'm just going to go with Mr. Consistent. I'm taking LeBron.
okay. Yeah.
Career averages of 27, 7 and 7. Last year he averaged 27.5, 9 assists, 8.6 rebounds on
close to a triple double.
Who else was on that Cleveland team? Doesn't matter.
Right. Who
Right.
cares?
And so with those numbers that he put up last year, I just expect him on the Lakers with more talent.
Yeah.
We know to expect LeBron. I mean, I don't feel like we even need to harp on this.
Yeah.
We know what we're going to get from LeBron James.
I'd say the only contingency to that would be the guys that who are gonna have to step it up. We're looking at Ingram, in my opinion, as that number 2 go-to scorer. LeBron James is still gonna have to score the basketball now. He's got a lot of guys out there, but in extended spurts and periods, I think we're gonna see more of a run and gun style. But back to maybe the Miami days where they were really just trying to execute that fast break offense a lot of the time. He's got shooters, man. He's got passers. He's got rebounders. He is going to put up some good numbers this season.
I definitely think so. So the pace of play for that team is just if preseason is an indicator of anything, like they're going to score.
They're going,
and whoever gets the rebound is pushing that ball up the floor, and so I, wholeheartedly expect, major numbers from LeBron, even with the numbers he put up last year. Last year was actually the first time in his career he played all 82 games.
Wow. Dang. That's a bit surprising to me. I feel like in those early Cleveland days,
there were some 79s and some 78s, but they would have the the number 1 seed wrapped up and sent out the last year
that's
or
crazy,
last game.
Bro.
So
yeah, LeBron is an android, man. Somebody pull that man's plug.
right. So I mean, I don't know if he's going to play all 82 games this year, but I envision with where they want the Lakers to be, he's going to have to play the majority of the game this year, and they're going to have to make the playoffs just for a success, which means. The responsibility, it's nothing new. It's LeBron. That's pretty much all I need to say.
It's a LeBron team.
Only one thing I want to add in, last year he attempted 5 3-pointers per game. So, like I said, everybody shooting threes, hashtag everybody shooting threes. So
we saw him in preseason. Look, man, they're in LA now, bro. They might want to be the new Golden State Warriors. So, he's going to be shooting a lot. And one thing that I think comes with that that's kind of funny is it just seems like LeBron has a new aura, man, a new sense of energy that is a bit more relaxed and a bit different perspective on the game. So he may be doing things we haven't seen him do in previous years.
It's interesting you say that. I was just watching his show, The Shop, on HBO, and he was talking with Drake, but I don't know if it was in that. Yeah, it was in that conversation. But pretty much what he was saying was that actually, having the time to sit down and go watch his sons play really reinvigorated him to play basketball because, watching them, as a parent, just gave him so much like passion. He was like, okay, like I'm ready to go now. So Bronny at Sierra Canyon out there.
Yep.
You're inspiring your father, so help him out getting some.
Right, y'all need some W's too, man. And hey, I'm sure there's a little bit of a difference between the sun that shines in LA and the one in Cleveland.
Yes,
so, that'll help a little bit too.
So I'm taking LeBron with my third pick.
I definitely had LeBron there previously, and this is going into my. Well, I'm having a tough time keeping track of the picks because we're going our top 3 or doing our top 10. I'm throwing in my boy Victor Oladipo next. I actually had him above LeBron a few days ago, but I reconsidered.
Okay.
But again, I watched some. I went back and watched some more Indiana preseason highlights and reconsidered that. But man, Victor Oladipo blew up last year.
Yeah.
We saw a bit of that going into the his shift into Oklahoma City and then finally landed in Indiana. The guy's getting better every year. Clearly has the right mentality. I'm the go-to guy. I'm going to do what I can to take my team to the next level. And that's included him. Man, that jump shot is looking crispy. He has a really nice step back now. But I'm just taking a look at some of his numbers from last year. Points-wise, he's always productive. 23 points per game. 5 rebounds, 4 assists. That's relatively modest too. But again, just based on his track record, I see those numbers bumping up a bit. Indiana, to me, will be in a prime position this year to really make noise at the top in the East. You got guys like Miles Turner getting better every year as well. So,
and Tyreek Evans.
Right, Evans. Even I'm trying to recall who they got in the draft.
Aaron Holiday,
yeah. I like Aaron Holiday a lot, man. So their guards are going to be just tossing up shots. In terms of, his, I'd say, mid-season production, it's really going to be about what the team needs. I could see a bit of a shift to make him maybe Miles Turner a bit more of a focal point this year as well. So we'll see on how that team wants to focus on their offense.
Yeah, I think so as well. With Oladipo last year, with being his first time really being the man on the squad, he was just phenomenal all around, offensively, defensively, and he was also on that show, The Shop, as well. And
oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay.
So, LeBron's getting everybody in there, but he was talking about just like the difference being a player in Orlando and then playing with Westbrook. And then going to Indiana, how his whole mentality and mindset changed as a player. And so I think having this year under his belt, knowing what he's capable of, and hey, but they went 7 games with the Cleveland Cavaliers.
Seriously,
LeBron James in the playoffs. So like I said, I just expect all those numbers to bump up, and maybe even like you said with Miles Turner, improving and doing, the work he did this summer. Maybe we see him become a little more involved in the offense, which Oladipo can be that sort of playmaker to get guys like him involved.
Yeah, I certainly see them being, Eastern title contenders. But I'm going to miss that was a great matchup last year going into Game 7. So hopefully they keep that momentum going.
Yeah. I definitely see that happening as well. So,
who else you got?
I'm a little surprised. You're going with a little risk takers here.
Hey, man,
but I'm not mad at you.
I want to see a vibe in the NBA this year. I want everybody to, come up to their top caliber.
Right.
So I got a few guys even at the tail end of this list that may surprise you, but.
Well, once again, I hate this guy, but I gotta take him. Kevin Durant, it's surprising to me the numbers that he's still averaging on this team. Last year he averaged 26 points, almost 7 rebounds, 5.5 assists, with a block and a half and a steal. And to be on a team with a Steph Curry, who puts up so many shots, Klay Thompson, who scores as well, and Draymond, who does everything else, and he's pretty much just cruising. These are like I'd say he's almost in like that LeBron status where it's just like you step on the court, I know what I'm gonna get. Like, no sweat. And
it's insane, man, and that goes to the credit of the Golden State Warriors franchise, because why wasn't that happening in OKC? Again, he's in my opinion, in the ideal situation for a player like him and a player like, Melo, for example. Somebody that really needs they need a clear mind, man. They need to go into each game with an understanding of who they are and what they're going to do. And if that doesn't meet the expectations of their team or even, say, the fan base or the organization, that's going to cause a lot of issues. And I think he had those conversations before joining the organization, and it has worked out better than anyone had expected. I think Golden State just gets up so many shots. It's hard to realize that he's probably putting up similar shot attempts. Well, I wouldn't say all that. He was putting up a lot of shots in OKC, but
he's very efficient.
Exactly, and all those guys are getting similar numbers of attempts, so you don't see someone just taking over the course of the game.
Hashtag pace of play. Man. Like I keep saying, Golden State's another one of those teams that are always going to be up there. They just score so well, and Durant's 99% of the time has an advantage of whoever he's guarding. So you just expect him; he's always going to be able to score. I think with DeMarcus Cousins being out at the beginning of the year, we're not quite sure when he's coming back. Maybe that puts a little more responsibility on Kevin Durant for blocking and rebounding.
He is very underrated as a defensive player, and you can see obviously in the framework of Golden State's offense, he's going to get his assists as well. So the numbers will be there. I don't know what it comes back down a lot of the times to me is how do they even continue to challenge themselves?
Right.
If you get too content, are the numbers going to be there? Is the pace at which you played the last couple of seasons going to be there? And I would expect it would.
And I think so too, because the bench this year is not so sure. They got a lot of young guys. I mean, aside from Livingston and Iguodala, it's pretty much a whole new complete unit. So I think that puts a little more responsibility again on the starters to set the pace and continue the success and the trend that they've had. So I'll happily take Kevin Durant. Another consistent player.
I can see that. Again, one of the best offensive players of all time. Y'all aren't betting wrong if you go with him, man. Okay, so my next.
This is your final pick, so make it a good one.
Oh, this is my final one.
We're going to start in 5. So your final pick.
We could work with that. So, okay. Before I name my last pick, I'm going to name my 2 honorable mentions.
Okay, go ahead.
Just
sounds good.
I don't want to throw any shade.
You always need a utility in case somebody can start in 5, so I'll allow it.
Right. Okay. So. My first time I ever mentioned would be Kemba Walker. The reason he's barely not making the list is because, now again, he's one of those players, I mean, if he was on a winning team, if he was a more superstar media marketing type player, this guy would be in the MVP conversations. Again, putting up a relatively, standard stat line, 22 points per game, 5.6 assists, 3 rebounds. But I don't know, something about Kemba, the impact he makes on his ball club, to me has taken them deep over the past couple years. With Tony Parker being added, that may be supplemented a bit by his play. But again, Kemba's still a superstar, man, and that team is only going as far as he's productive. My other contingency player was Karl Anthony Towns. And we talked about that a bit, just based on the drama that's happening around with that organization. Who knows what mentality or mindset he'll have going in, or even the players that they'll have in terms of how productive he'll be. 18 points a game, 7 rebounds, a couple blocks. don't sleep on this guy. I know he's getting a bad rap these days, but he's still insanely productive in my mind. All right, I'm gonna give you my last player here, and that's gonna be Mr. Joel Embiid.
Oh,
Yeah.
Mr.
Instagram himself.
You know, it was so many girls at concerts.
And he could probably hop on this podcast and tell me why he'd be number one.
Nate, I'm the best player.
I love Joel, man.
Man, Joel, I got you, bro.
Trust
I
the
got
process.
you covered. Again, last year the numbers, they per for that team while he's on the floor last year was a drastic change. He was scoring 22 points a game, 11 rebounds, and 3 assists. Given the scope of what Philly's working with this year and the direction they're headed, Embiid is still going to be that centerpiece along with Simmons. But people are starting to understand more about his defensive capabilities.
Yeah.
And the guy is getting better and better every year on the offensive end. Outside, I mean, Giannis, Anthony Davis, if you have to look at either a 3-point shooter or a mid-tier, mid-level shooter at 7 foot, there's nobody better than Embiid right now in my mind. Soft touch, great footwork, in and out game, can play back, can face up. I don't see anything outside of maybe Markelle Fultz being a more offensive player that Embiid's numbers would dwindle at all. You're going to have a full season, hopefully, with him, Simmons, and their squad healthier. So the more games he plays, obviously, the more he could potentially have.
I think the plus side is if Markelle doesn't shoot well, that just means more rebounds for
More
Embiid.
rebounds,
right?
Yeah, there you go. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm thoroughly impressed with what I've seen with Embiid so far. He dominates the game. He's got the footwork, and even if the shot's not falling, he finds a way to get to the free throw line. I think he's underrated as a defensive player as well.
Big body. I mean, the guy is the quintessential center right now. We're going to look at a guy like DeMarcus Cousins going into next year and see an odd reflection, I think, of more of that old school center type who is adding to his full spectrum and capabilities versus a guy who was constantly adapting with today's NBA. And Embiid, we saw this just from based on his story coming into Kansas. The guy can adapt very quickly, learns very quickly, and as long as he can stay healthy, that cohesion and that chemistry between him and Simmons is going to continue to grow. So, he's the last one on my list, man.
Okay. Trust the process.
Always. Philly, I think everybody's rallying behind y'all this year. Make something happen.
For sure. So I'll round up my team as well. I give you two reserves that I had before I gave you who my final fifth was. My final fifth's a little bit of a risk taker too. So yeah, I've got some there where everybody's not too consistent. One guy, and I'm a little biased because I'm a huge fan. Devin Booker was one of the guys that was just on the cusp of being one of the top 10 players for me. Phoenix, although they may not be good, when you have a team that plays with that kind of pace, once again, pace of play, they're going to put up points. And he's clearly the guy, just got this big contract. They're going to be expecting a lot from them. I also believe that they're kind of trying to take a Houston approach with what they did with James Harden 2 years ago. And I think they're going to try to play Devin Booker at the point guard position, possibly. I don't know how much I like that, but the more you have the ball in your hands, the more capabilities you are to make plays, scoring, assisting, and such. Yeah,
Booker, man, it's a lot of people like to compare him to a guy like Klay Thompson, and I think it does both of them a disservice because a lot of people only like to compare him to Klay Thompson because they think Klay Thompson is strictly a shooter.
Yeah.
Whereas neither of those guys are strictly shooters. I think Devin Booker can put the ball on the floor. I wouldn't trust him to do it the same way that Harden can because he just clearly has that's his go-to. I mean, as strong as a three-point shooter he has the capability to drive. Something about Booker extends a little bit beyond Thompson in my mind. He
Yeah.
has a more wide set of skills, but he's still just so effective to me in the the screen game, the pick and pop. And with Ayton in the mix, I'm wondering how they're going to play perhaps an inside-out game.
Yeah, I think you see a lot more pick and roll, a lot of lobs. It's what we've seen a little bit during the, not with Booker because obviously he's a little injured right now, but with the other players that are playing, you've seen like Ayton has shown he can hit that mid-range, that elbow jumper, and he's effective on the pick and roll lob. So I think that just opens up. If you've got a guy like Devin Booker and you're running pick and rolls with Ayton, you got to come out on Booker,
Right.
or switch, and that's either gonna lend you a mismatch for Booker shooting over the player, getting around him, or with Ayton being on the block with a player smaller than him, which just equals more assists for Booker. So I think he has the potential to put up a lot of numbers this year with him being the focal point of the offense. Last year he averaged 24 points. Almost 5 assists, 4.5 rebounds, and that was in 34 minutes and only 54 games. So, expecting him to be healthy. And
what do you think the conversations are in the locker room right now or even from like general management in terms of Ayton, Booker? Who's really kind of leading the team this year?
I think it's definitely Booker. I mean, with the amount of money he just got paid. I mean, DeAndre Ayton got paid, but that was in college. We're not going to talk about that. But no, I think they're definitely looking for Booker, to be the guy to lead his team. And that's why you bring in a guy like, Trevor Ariza, and you have guys like Tyson Chandler on your bench who have that veteran leadership to kind of steer these guys in the right direction. And then even a little breaking news, apparently Jamal Crawford was seen at the Suns facility. So they may be looking to sign him. So that's just another veteran leader guy that can help further these guys along.
Minnesota, man, what are y'all doing?
So, but I think Booker's definitely, you don't pay what you pay him and then say, oh, DeAndre Ayton's gonna be who we're looking to. So
for sure. Yeah, that was a little desperation in their part too, man, because Booker is playing to the level that he expects, and the Suns aren't. I don't think they're following suit.
Yeah.
He's another guy, and look at the landscape in a couple years. Somebody may be willing to take on that deal.
Right. If you have superstars, you have to lock them up. Though, if you're in a market where you don't have the guys, even if it seems like you're overpaying for them, you have to get them because you don't know when another guy may get around, or depending on the market you're in, you may not be able to get that type of player if you don't draft them. So, that kind of explains, the money. But I think Booker seems like he's a guy who's, dedicated. Yeah. He's motivated, and he wants to be well. He came from Kentucky. He said, aside from being in the NBA, this is the only time he's been on a losing team. So I expect him, to elevate his game, and as well with the pieces that they have, they'll, they're not going to contend for a playoff spot, but you just want to improve at this point.
Yeah, we'll see, man. Phoenix is, I don't know. It's kind of the land of the lost right now. I don't really see anybody having too much success out there, but we'll keep our fingers crossed for them.
Anytime you can score 70 points, you're
for real. Oh my God,
I'm a fan.
I'm very excited.
So my second reserve player before I get to my final player, I'm gonna go with Kawhi. I'm intrigued about this whole new situation. His mindset. That creepy vampire laugh,
that alone, man, they need to creep that into the stats. Like, who has had the most cringeworthy interviews over time?
Yes, but Kawhi, we know what he's capable of. His last full season, 16-17, 25 points per game, almost 6 rebounds, 3.5 assists, a steal, almost 2 steals. So we know he can be an all-around player, and being the focal point now in Toronto, I just expect him to, and this is also a contract year for him.
Exactly.
So if there's any time to put up numbers, this is the time to put up numbers.
Yeah.
So, and from what I saw in preseason, you know, we don't want to take too much stake out of it. He looked comfortable.
Mm-hmm.
You know, he wasn't forcing shots. You know, he picked and chose his points, and he was actually, you know, making plays. He was setting up other guys, you know, for shots and layups, and the defense was still there. So you know, he had a
Kawhi
stat.
is a business as usual guy. And like you said, based on the circumstances, he's ready to play ball the way he's used to playing it, which is actually playing.
Right.
So I see that being relatively seamless going into the year, and that's why I have him as a sleeper for, you know, potentially MVP. And that's a whole other show. But yeah, he's one of those guys, man. He has always been uber productive, regardless of what, you know, what the team success is looking like or the chemistry there. But I look for him to actually have just as good a season as he's had in San Antonio going into this year. That offense really trusts him, I feel, too, at this point, to lead them. So they're going to keep that window open and let him, you know, kind of orchestrate as necessary.
And I think you can run a lot of the same sets that you had with DeRozan, but even more, because while Kawhi is not a prolific three-point shooter, he's a better three-point shooter than DeRozan was. So that sort of opens up the floor for everyone. Just to go back to the preseason, in very limited minutes, he had 11 points, 7 assists, 7 rebounds, and 4 steals against Brooklyn. And they play Brooklyn 4 times a year. So if it's any indication, I feel pretty good about that.
Get a couple W's there off the board.
So the guy that I'm taking after, you know, the big build up with my last pick, I'm going Andre Drummond.
Andre Drummond, okay.
At first, I had Blake Griffin because, you know, I like point forward Blake. You know, he can make plays. But then when I went down and looked into the numbers, did you know Andre Drummond averaged 16 rebounds a game last year?
Damn.
Yes.
Whoa. Okay.
16 rebounds.
Is he the league leader?
Yes, he was the league leader last year in rebounds. Wow. So last year, Andre Drummond averaged 15 points, 16 rebounds, 3 assists with 62 double-doubles. Okay. So that alone, you know, you're getting a double-double a game. You're getting 30 combined points just based off of points and rebounds.
We gotta look. I gotta look at. I'm hoping those are defensive rebounds too. Because good God,
you know, the 3 or 4 are probably offensive, but you know that's consistency right there. For you to average 6, that means
that's putting in work near the basket.
Right, and I should have went and, you know, did a little more research, but, you know, leave me alone. But I mean, you know, he has a couple 20-20 games last year, though that's a possibility. If you look at these stats here, you're basically 4 rebounds and 2 dunks away from averaging 20 and 20 for a season. Think insane. About that. Yeah. That's crazy. So with those 2 stats right there, also watching him, you know, over the summer and a little bit of preseason, it seems like he's really tapping into his potential now, because you're not going to see him, you know, ice on anybody, but he can handle the ball a little bit for a guy his size. Which
that's been one of his, I think, you know, people are always looking at kind of his intangibles, and he's always been, you know, I'd say a very fluid athlete. He has a great body control. That's why I can see, for his size, being able to operate efficiently around the basket, because he can find his spots. He has good hands. And like you said, you're seeing him. I did see some plays in preseason. He put it on the floor, would face up a little bit. And that may even be a bit of him being inspired by Blake Griffin. But yeah, I think that's always been the talk about Andre Drummond, his potential. And if he can finally begin to isolate that or continue to work on it, I mean, that is insane, man. Those are big numbers.
You've got a coach, Dwayne Casey, who was the coach of the year, that got fired, and that just happens in the NBA for some reason.
Sir. Yeah.
But I think having him there, and then also the rumors around there that they're gonna let Andre Drummond shoot threes this year. So like I said, everybody's shooting threes.
That I will highly discourage. Good God, are you serious?
Yes, I only need one to go down.
He's
if
only
you shoot
doing that
for
to
three,
add one extra rebound.
Look, I only need 1 3 to go down a game. That'll get us to 18 points a game.
I'm
So
taking a few. Blake, calm your mans.
Look, it's
To
in the
that
league.
point, I wouldn't have been mad if you had tossed Blake in there as well. I think he, like you said earlier, is shifting his player identity a bit to be more of that offensive orchestrator. And that, he can shoot threes, he can put the ball on the floor. Rebounding hasn't seemed to be as big of a focus for him.
Which is a little strange for somebody with his athleticism, you would think, as far as well as with the blocks. But
right, I think I don't know. Blake Griffin doesn't stay around the basket a lot.
Yeah.
For example, like when he posts up, it's very quick, straightforward movement. He doesn't like to stay there for too long.
in his defense, as far as rebounding and blocks, he did play with DeAndre Jordan, but that only means so much.
Sure.
I'm just playing devil's advocate.
And that
at
may
this
be
point.
the case. Him and Andre have established what they're doing on the defense.
Andre, you get all the rebounds.
Exactly, man.
I'll be on the break.
I'll toss you at least 4 lobs a game if I don't need to get 1 rebound. And I like that pairing. I'm looking forward to what Detroit can do this year.
In the Eastern Conference, anything is possible.
Seriously.
Just so we'll recap our teams. Team Nate has Anthony Davis, James Harden, Jokic,
Jokic,
Oladipo, and Joel Embiid.
Yep.
And Team Aziz has Westbrook, Giannis, LeBron, Durant, and Andre Drummond. So I feel pretty good about my team.
I feel like my team, bro. Y'all have head cases. You got Westbrook, LeBron, and KD on the same team, man.
I know what we're gonna get though. the numbers are gonna be there every night.
Okay.
So
Okay. Now, me, I'm gonna coach Davis, Harden, Jokic, Oladipo, and Embiid. That is a cohesive unit, man. Numbers wise, they're gonna take some hits, but yeah. All those guys we've talked about this year have been pretty consistent over the past couple seasons. I think Jokic is one of the ones that may be a new contender.
But this could be a breakout year for him.
But yeah, man, these guys have all been playing at a high level for a long time. And I don't expect that to change much. So it should be another really, really good year.
Definitely. We'll figure something out. I may, make a little spreadsheet and we can keep tally of the stats for a week or so. We'll figure it out. But we just want to thank you all for being a part of this fantasy episode. So, take these stats to heart and good luck in your drafts this year.
Yeah, and let us know who you may be thinking could have been added to this list, or
who are you?
We were screwing up here, man. Let us know it. It's all good.
Right. Leave your sleepers and whatnot in the comments below. But thanks for joining us.